everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla and it's time to crack into a good book. So first I just want to kind of throw something out there. So YouTube has changed its terms of service and there's like this whole thing with the I think it's Child Online Privacy Protection Act or something like that, COPPA. So there's like a lot of very vague wording and like, I think it'll ultimately be okay, but like, I just want to say, like if my channel suddenly vanishes, it's probably because something has happened. But anyway, so today's video is going to be about a few of the December releases that I'm excited about. So there's not a whole lot of releases this month, but like, I mean, there generally isn't. So we'll start on December 3rd, and there's a couple of books coming out. So the first one that I'll talk about today is A Case of the Spellbound Child by Mercedes Lackey. So I think this is like the 14th book in her Elemental Masters series. So basically what this series is like, it originally started out as more of like retold fairy tales, and people would have various elemental powers, so like water, fire, earth, and air. And like the more recent books have been kind of retellings retellings of Sherlock Holmes cases. So like, I don't know. I mean, I preferred the fairy tales, but the more recent books with the Sherlock Holmes element are like, they're still fun. So in this world, we have kind of different levels of magical ability. So like the really powerful mages are masters or elemental masters. So anyway, the like main wizard of London, I guess, sends our main characters out to investigate rumors of evil magic. Evidently, like right after sending them out, someone from wherever like this location is comes to the Wizard of London asking for help because his wife has evidently like gotten angry about their children ruining their dinner for that night. So she like sends the kids out to forage in the forest. This isn't the first time she's done this, but evidently this time the kids have like not returned. So like they're simultaneously investigating this evil magic and like investigating where these kids have gone. So I don't know if that's like sort of like Hansel and Gretel type retelling or what. I've really enjoyed all of this series so far, so I'm excited for this one. The next book that I'll talk about for December 3rd is Blood of Empire by Brian McClellan. So this is the third and I believe final book in this Gods of Blood and Powder series. So this is like, I think it's a trilogy. I've talked about this a few times on my channel, and if you're interested, I do have an author spotlight for Brian McClellan. But so basically, in this world, there are different types of magic. So we've got like powder mages, and they can basically like snort gunpowder and have enhanced reflexes and like can steer the trajectory of bullets. There's like more traditional elemental magic, and then there's like a blood magic type thing. So anyway, in this one, obviously, like it's the third book in what I believe is a trilogy, so I don't want to spoil things, but basically there are these god stones in this world that like are super powerful and people are trying to control them. So things are generally like in a bad place, and our main characters are trying to prevent these god stones from being used and are like, they have to go to war basically. So I think we're trying to find new allies in order to win this like final battle. But I'm really excited for this. I do think this Gods of Blood and Powder trilogy is even better than the Powder Mage trilogy, so like I do highly recommend that you read these books. The next book that I'll talk about is Anyone by Charles Soule. So this one has been evidently adapted for television, or soon to be adapted for television. So this is a sci-fi book, I think. So I think a scientist searching for a cure to Alzheimer's disease has discovered a way to like transfer consciousness instead. I guess this technology has become kind of widespread and people can, use it, but this obviously has some problems. The whole pitch here is like the company or whatever is like be anyone with anyone, where, anyone I guess is the name of the company. Yeah, so I guess people, like, if they're desperate enough, can, like, rent out their bodies for others to transfer their consciousness to, and, like, that's obviously bad, because there could be crimes, you name it, happening. I think the ultimate plotline here is, like, rebelling against this technology and, just exploring this idea of how things can go horribly wrong. But, it sounds like it could be good. The last of the December 3rd books that I'll talk about is Would Like to Meet by Rachel Winters. So our main character here works for a film agency, and she has to convince this writer to to write this romantic comedy screenplay that he owes her producers, or like otherwise her job is going to be terminated. So this writer thinks that rom-coms are unrealistic, and he'll only write this screenplay if our main character like shows him that any of these events that typically happen in rom-coms actually do happen in real life. I think this is going to be kind of entertaining because, you know, she ends up, I guess, reenacting like iconic rom-com scenes in public. So she is like attempting to prove that she can meet somebody using these like silly rom-com techniques. So like this sounds really amusing. Okay, so then we move to December 10th, and the first book I'll talk about here is The Light of All That Falls by James Islington. So this is the third and final book in the Licanius trilogy. It has a lot of traditional fantasy elements in it. So generally, like, the premise here is that at one point in this world, there were like these augurs who had, or just like, were people with really strong powers. And they were basically like gods, and they kind of controlled everything. So there was a war fought against them, and, you know, they're overthrown and basically like killed off. So the people who had this like lesser ability called the gift were kind of forced into obedience because, like, obviously the alternative was to be killed off like the augurs. The use of the gift is like strictly under control, and they're kind of hated. So we have like this whole school element where people with the gift are like learning to control it, and they're kind of, you know, kept captive. So in the first book, our main character learns that he has the ability of the augurs, and obviously like this is really bad. He like cannot let anybody know. Then we also have like an ancient enemy stirring, and this other young man who wakes up covered in blood and has like no idea who he is. So like we've got all these storylines weaving together. So in this one, I think we're kind of having to deal with everything that's happened so far, and like it's like the final battle. So, you know, we've got evil creatures, political schemes, and then like this centuries old plan that's been in action. I've really enjoyed the first two books, so I'm excited to see how this concludes. I do recommend picking it up. I think it's a really fun series for like those who especially like. I do feel like it has like a traditional fantasy feel, so, you know, definitely check it out if that sounds interesting. So the last book that I'll talk about today is The Dead Girls Club by Damien Angelica Walters. So this is like a thriller, supernatural thriller horror book, I think. So I think there's multiple timelines here, and like we have this Dead Girls Club. They're talking about serial killers and monsters and stuff. They talk about the Red Lady, who is apparently like the spirit of a vengeful witch. One of our main characters, I think, you know, thinks that these are all just stories, and then her friend is like, no, the Red Lady is real, and she can prove it. So the friend who believes that the Red Lady is real ends up dying, and then like 30 years later, our main character who doesn't believe in the Red Lady never told anybody about what actually happened, that the character who believes in the Red Lady was actually right, and the Red Lady is in fact real. So then our main character receives like a necklace in the mail, and that she hasn't seen since the night that this other character died, and it's like the night that our main character killed this other character. So I guess somebody knows what actually happened. And they're determined to make our main character, you know, suffer the consequences or whatever. So this is kind of like, has gotten some middling reviews, I think, but it does sound really interesting. Hopefully it's good. But yeah, so those are all the books that I'm going to talk about today. You know, there's not a ton coming out this month. Like, obviously there's more than just the few that I mentioned, but these are some of the ones that I'm like particularly excited about, and think that maybe other channels aren't going to talk about them as much. Let me know in the comments if you think you might pick up any of these books or have read some of the books in the series already. I hope you're having an excellent day and are reading something awesome. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, as that would certainly help me out. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up here and see you in the next one.